Hi students, how are you all? I am Dr. Bharata. I have come here to discuss with you about the emotional and social crisis that exists in families and for individuals. India is a very rapidly changing society, and due to modernization and fast improving technology and scientific invention, various changes are taking place in the families and individuals also due to communication technology, computers, Facebook and etc. Individuals and family members are confused with various informations, which one to pick up, which one to omit. In this situation, they are unable to cope up with the society and in the working place. The family members have got various roles for the individual's development and family maintenance. Due to these changes, the role conflicts are taking place in the families. Because of this, role diffusion also takes place, and individuals are unable to pick up which role to be followed and which are not to be followed. In this situation, various difficulties are encountered by the individuals and family members, which ends up in a situation for which they are unable to adjust, don't have immediate solution. Hence, the various crises or problems occur. In such a situation, individuals and family members enter in crisis, to say family crisis, social crisis and emotional crisis. Now, let us see about the causes, implications and behavior modification for emotional and social crisis that are faced by the individuals and families in this modern society. The content of this module enables the learner to understand the consequences of various social and emotional crises, be aware of the causes so as to avoid, and behavior modification so as to try to adopt in day-to-day life. Now let us see about the emotional crisis. In day-to-day happening, various unhappy incidences occur for individuals and family members. In such situations, people become upset and ends up in emotional crisis. To enlist the emotional crisis, prevalence of dreadful diseases, lack of employment and vocational opportunities, underemployment, role conflicts, communication disaster, poor nutrition and health care, minimal enforcement of child abuse, child labor, child marriage, value erosion, unwed parenting, marital strain and dissolution, parent-child conflict and step parenting, family violence and domestic violence, substance abuse, juvenile delinquency, school dropout, wastage and stagnation, runaway situation, women employment, elder abuse, alcoholism, dowry system, childlessness, homosexual families. Now we see in detail the prevalence of dreadful diseases. Diseases, whether acute, chronic, dreadful kind, always arouse emotional upset and ends up in emotional crisis. These crises in turn necessitating adaptation by members and behavioral modifications. If satisfactory adjustments are not made, various steps would be taken, such as separation of the couple, divorce, widow remarriage, step parenting, or suicide, which would end up in broken families. Lack of employment and vocational opportunities is another emotional crisis. Employment or any other means of earning sources, such as vocational area, is an important aspect in one's life, because without money we cannot do anything, because this enables to earn money, which in turn is necessary for the fulfillment of the basic needs. If a person is unemployed or not involved in any vocation, particularly who do not have financial support or properties, the effect would be more on the developmental part of the individuals, and in turn the family's peacefulness would be affected. Now the third one is the underemployment. Though one is employed, underemployment is another situation, has a similar effect on development issues of human beings like unemployment and vocational opportunities. In such cases, people have to supplement their income through some other sources to come away from the emotional crisis. Role conflicts. What is role conflicts? In Indian families, father, mother, children, grandchildren have different roles to perform in day-to-day situation. Due to some crisis, if one fails in performing their role, this may affect the behavior of the development of the individual, which leads to role conflicts and further problems. Communication disaster. In this era of communication technology, communication is very important in managing both natural and human-made disasters. Damage to communications, infrastructure difficulties in carrying out response, and recovery efforts during previous disaster. Some disasters are inevitable, but the sufferings can be minimized by proper information, management, and effective early warning systems. In order to minimize loss and damage, one should facilitate appropriate communication, which will relieve an individual and family from emotional crisis. For example, any unusual behavior found in an adolescent girl or boy to be dispensed by the couple to sort out the problem and help the adolescent to come out of it. The fourth emotional crisis is poor nutrition and health care. The basic needs are food, health, and shelter. Thus, good nutrition is one of the basic needs. If any lacunae is in the intake of nutritious food, care is taken at central, state, district, and panchayat levels by the Ministry of Health and Nutrition. If the family members consume poor nutrition or undernutrition, that will affect the health of the status of any one or more family members. Thus, morbidity and mortality ratio would be high, and hence emotional state of the people would be affected a very, very large way. Next, minimal enforcement of child abuse, child labor, child marriage. This has been documented and also relayed everywhere about the child abuse, child labor, child marriage. Ill treatment of children, poor feeding, lack of health care, authoritative attitude of parents, denial of child rights, child abuse, sex abuse, demanding the child to do household work, and stepchild abuse. India is a home to 13 million child laborers in order to supplement the family income, or due to the death of the father or due to the cruel attitude of the stepmother, the child may go for work before the age of 18. Child labor deprives children of their childhood and is harmful to their physical and mental development. The ideal age for marriage for female is 18 years and for male 21 years. If the marriage occurs prior to this age, is known as child marriage. For all these three aspects, government has enforced laws, but it is of minimal enforcement. Hence, the practice is continuing in an alarming way. Laws related to child abuse, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 to protect the child from sexual abuse. The Child Protection Act 1999 for child safety services. Laws related to child labor. Child Labor Act, that is known as Prohibition and Regulation Amendment Bill 2012. Laws related to child marriage. The Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. Child Marriage Act in India. Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929. Laws related to street children. Protection and promotion of the rights of the children in the recent years. I think all this would enable the individuals to know about the child abuse, child marriage and other thing, and to eradicate that. Now let us see about value erosion. Values are the guiding principles of life which are conducive to all-round development. Values give meaning and occupying a central place in an individual's life. Values reflect behavior relationships, give direction and firmness to life, and bring joy, satisfaction, and peace in life. The world is passing through great crises in almost all spheres of life. Political and economic corruption, anti-social and anti-national activities are on the rise all over the country. Rapid scientific growth and technological advancement resulting in industrialization have threatened our age-old moral standards. Due to value erosion, lot of changes in an individual's attitude take place, and behavior reflects in family relationship. To mention few: drug addiction, antisocial behavior, alcoholism, sexual abuse, spouse abuse, separation or divorce, institutionalization, child abuse, and elder abuse, and so on. All these conditions in a family leads to emotional crisis. The need of the day to impart value, to inculcate sense of humanism, a deep concern for the well-being of the individuals and others, and nation to develop the social, moral, aesthetic and spiritual sides of a person and family and the country. Now, let us see what is unwed parenting. Due to value erosion and modernization, unwed parenting is increasing. That means people without marriage, a man and woman, live together like husband and wife, which lower down the status of family and its members. Emotional turmoil is on the ultimate result for them as well as to the family members and society. Now, among the emotional crisis, we see about marital strain and dissolution. Marriage is a happy event, but all marriages are not so. After marriage, in order to maintain family relationship, couple have certain roles to perform for themselves, for spouse relationship, for in-law relationship, in families of both the spouse, and for the society. If failed in performing their roles, relationship would be disrupted and conflicts arise, which is known as mental strain and dissolution of the marriage bond, that is, breaking up of the marriage relationship takes place, which leaves heavy emotional crisis on the individuals, which leads to various other health problems. Parent-child conflicts, step parenting. In 21st century, with the increasing democratic and permissive attitude of parenting styles, children have lot of freedom in the families to choose do and follow as they wish, which at times tap the parents to think about value maintenance. Generation gap is another reason for parent-child conflicts, which is revealed in child's value erosion, self-decision, individual property accumulation, saving on their own without giving to the family's expenses, detachment from parents, and a demand for parental property. All these events break the emotional stability and in the long run leads to emotional crisis. Now you can see what is family violence, domestic violence. Whatever happens in the family as a violent activity will lead to the domestic violence. Breakup of joint family system and coming up of the nuclear families, increasing parent-child conflicts, increased women education, women employment, absence of elder role model and guidance for right direction. Family violence is increasing at high rate in the modern society. To spell out, spouse abuse, alcoholism, elder abuse, separation relationship, demand for dowry and child labor, which keep the family members under stress and strain with emotional crisis. Spouse abuse. After marriage, for few months, husband and wife would be very happy, and due to disruption of any reasons or any fact, coupled with incompatibility in thoughts and behavior, cannot adjust with each other for a long period. In addition to compatibility, disparity in education, that means difference in education, status of work, childlessness, financial level, properties of the parents are the reasons for spouse abuse. That is, husband abusing the wife or wife abusing the husband. That is called spouse abuse. If the condition prolongs for a longer period, it used to end up in separation or divorce. Now, the next major problem is juvenile delinquency, which gives lot of emotional trauma to all the family members. A major crime committed by a minor, whether it is a girl or a boy below 18 years, is known as juvenile delinquency. A disturbed child due to broken families, unwanted child, authoritarian attitude of the parents, stepchild and parents, poverty, bad companionship, street children, abused child, drug addicts do such crimes. They would be kept in foster homes for rehabilitation education and vocational education for a certain period depending on the kind of the crisis a child has done. This crisis makes everyone in the family emotionally disturbed. School dropout, wastage and stagnation. Children who do not have interest in education, unfulfillment of the needs of the family, lack of parental care in children's education, transportation problem, household work, neglected child, do not concentrate or at last discontinue from the school, which is known as school dropout. Such children may involve in anti-social activities or cannot go for good career. The family will be looked down by the society, hence parents may be emotionally disturbed. Runaway situation. Parents and family members would be mentally and emotionally affected if the child runs away from home or an adolescent or young adult runs away for marriage without the knowledge of the parents, or an adult runs away due to extramarital life. Women employment. Government's long-term goal for development is women employment. Any good thing sometimes may have a loophole. The dual role of women, career and household, do not permit one to give more time to child and household core. Hence, dissatisfaction occur not fulfilling the needs of everyone or the role to be played. In the long run, it may end up as a major problem such as children cared or guided sufficiently, hence the child become a failure, unable to take care of the elders and so on. Elder abuse, old age problem, we all know it is coming up in dailies very frequently. Due to the breakup of the joint families, nuclear or extended families are existing. In such families, elders, the most affected population. Elders are used to maintain household works, look after the children, have to go and pay bills and to buy rations like that. In some instances, elders are sent to homes for the aged. This would be emotionally disturbed. Alcoholism, it is a very popular word in India in the present day. Due to the habit of alcoholism, either by son or father or grandfather, the family members would be affected emotionally, that too if the income of the family is very poor. Dowry system. In spite of government's efforts to curb out the dowry system, through the enforcement of laws and imparting awareness, dowry giving and taking is happening silently. If the process is not satisfied for the in-laws, then comes the violence. Unimaginable form of violence taken place, leave way for broken marriages, separation and death. This social causes emotional disturbance to the high degree. Childlessness. Childlessness may be due to husband and wife, but the stigma goes to wife. In some cases, the mother of the boy may go for second marriage even before getting the legal separation. This is an unhappy situation for the girl's family. Homosexual relationship. The homosexual relationship, lesbians, lowers the status of the family, hence the marriage of the younger ones may be affected. Family members cannot mingle in the society freely. Let us see social crisis causes and behavior modification. Social crises are social change, lack of social resources and supports, overcrowding and housing problems, broken families, migration of families and gradual weakening of age-old tradition, natural disasters, prevalence of poverty, social violence, terrorism, political instability, early marriage and early parenting, status confusion, value erosion and increased longevity. Now, lack of social resources and supports. Educational institutions, religious centers, library, community centers, recreational clubs, Mahila mandals and self-help groups are the various social resources which supports the family system for its effective functioning. Due to hurdles, there may be lack of social resources which cannot support the family system. For example, no good schools in the nearby place, diminishing spiritual practices, non-availability of libraries and welfare institutions, overcrowding and housing problems. The great impact of industrialization is the mobility of rural population to urban and suburban areas, which results in overcrowding, ultimately ends up in housing problems. Broken families, enhanced women education and women employment, nuclear family system and small family norm lead the lifestyle with a lot of freedom. Couple are very independent, permissive attitude of parenting process enable the children to be on their own, hence adjustment problems occur very often, ultimately ends up in broken families. Marriage of families and gradual weakening of age-old tradition. For the purpose of education, employment and due to marriage, people move from one place to another, spiritually rural or tribal to urban or suburban areas. Families and individuals start adopting the new culture and practices, hence the age-old traditions in all walks of life are slowly disappearing. Natural disasters, tropical cyclones, earthquakes, floods, landslides, avalanches, blizzards, heat waves, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, storms, wildfire, bushfires, wars, accidents, battles, the violent events, families, and nuclear disasters are some of the natural disasters due to which social crises occur in families and for individuals, which ends up in bereavement, divorce, homelessness, landlessness, orphans, robbery, suicides, child labor, extramarital relationship, unwed mothers, juvenile delinquents, sex trading, health problems, and also conflicts. Prevalence of poverty. Poverty is the condition which disturbs the family relationships. Conflict arises due to the unfulfillment of the needs such as food, education, housing, transportation facilities, and so on. Domestic violence and terrorism. A situation and far-reaching social problem which is related with gender, male perpetrators, women beaten by male, irrespective of language, religion, custom, lead to psychological abuse, ultimately ends up in internal conflicts. Political instability. There are various incidences of political instability such as withdrawing from one party and joining in another party. Dismissal of a leader or member from a party causes social crisis, social violence, riots, death, suicides, and murder. Early marriage and early parenting. Ideal age for marriage for a girl is 18 and for a boy 21, as I said already. In some communities and in some instances, marriage takes place earlier than the ideal age for marriage, which is legally unacceptable. Such marriages are ultimately ends up in parenting, early parenting also, for which the woman is not prepared biologically, mentally, and sometimes financially, also because of the early marriage. The couple may or may not settle in career, financial problems may be there. Childbearing and rearing may not be known to them, and finally, they have to depend on parents or in-laws, which is a very big social crisis. Status confusion. Status confusion may occur due to disparities in educational level, income level, properties, housing status, and so on. Value erosion. Due to modern technology, the value erosion takes place in individual as well as in families. Increased longevity because of various welfare programs. After independence, the health is improved and people's life also is increased, and hence the increased longevity. Now, you all have seen various emotional and social crises. From this, you can come to a conclusion. In the modern society, there are various social and emotional problems which every individual and family enter into, for which we all should be aware of the causes, and we have to have the behavioral modifications required for a peaceful life.